What's going on, folks? Kendall here with Renos for Pros and Joes, and before we get started with this Timberland Pit Boss review part 2, I want to quickly show you guys this serene setting where I'm going to be filming today. Check this out. What's going on, folks? Welcome to Renos for Pros and Joes. I'm Kendall, and today I am back with the second installment of the Timberland Pit Boss review. So if you did not know, a year ago to the date, yesterday, I posted my first review of the Timberland Pit Boss. And in that video, I covered my experiences after 6 years of use. And so one fun tidbit of information about that video is that even though it was posted 366 days ago as of today, the footage was actually shot a year and a half prior to the video being posted. So now I'm back 1 year from the date of post, and that means that today's review is actually after 2.5 years of wear. And so this is the pair that I presented in that original video as being brand new and unworn. And so now they've got 2.5 years of wear on them, and I'm ready to give you my rundown on how they've performed thus far. So the first thing I'm gonna do is give you some overview on the features of this boot. Then I'm gonna tell you some of the things about the shortcomings that I originally notated on the original video and how this boot stacks up against that one. I'm also gonna give you some tips that I have used to help prolong the life of this boot. And then I'm also gonna give you some safety tips on the back end to help you with foot safety. So we're gonna start off here. I'm gonna walk you around the boot, and then we're gonna walk and I'm gonna talk to you about all those other items. So let's jump into it. So now let me tell you about some of the features of this boot. So this boot is made from a whole grain leather upper, which makes it very durable, but also very comfortable. The collar of the boot also has a substantial amount of padding, as you can see here, as well as the tongue. And one of the features that I also like about this boot is that the footbed or the insert actually comes out so that you can clean it off or swap it out and put it back in. You can see mine's got quite a bit of dust on it, but hey, it's been in use for 2.5 years. Also, the footbed as well as the lining of this boot has been treated with an antimicrobial, which is supposed to help keep down fungus and odor. So that's also a big plus if you're someone who's going to be working in these. Something to also consider. This boot comes in a steel toe and a soft toe version. This is the steel toe version, and my first pair was also a steel toe version. The next thing I want to highlight is going to be the soles of these boots, which is a non-marking black sole, very durable, and the midsole is also very solid on this boot. This boot also features a nylon shock absorption plate, which is below the bottom of the footbed of the boot and above the midsole. But I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. Another feature about this boot is that it has steel eyelets here and hooks for your laces to keep those in place. And it also has a whole grain leather hook here on the back for storage if you've got some type of nifty place to hold these on a wall or something like that, or maybe in your vehicle. So that covers the basics of this boot. I'm gonna zoom in close here so that you can see what this boot looks like on all sides. Really a sharp looking boot. And another thing that I almost got away without telling you is that the boot is also waterproof. So that is also a huge, huge, huge plus. So now that we've gone over the basics of this boot, there's a really cool place out here that I want to show you. So as we head that way, I'm also going to talk about some of the things that have changed on this boot from the previous version, as well as some of my favorite features on this boot, as well as some tips and steps that I've implemented in caring for these boots that have helped me prolong the life of the boot, as well as a safety tip. So let's head that way. let's get moving. So one of the first things that I have to say that I like most about this boot is just the overall comfort level of it and the fact that I feel completely safe when I have it on. As a contractor, I'm someone who's done their fair share of dumpster diving, as well as getting into situations where I don't know exactly what's on the ground. And when I wear these, I feel comfortable that I'm not gonna have to worry about having my feet punctured by nails and sharp objects like glass, metal, things like that. So that's a huge plus for me. Another thing that I have found to rely on is the nylon shock diffusion plate that I mentioned earlier. That feature is awesome when you're doing lots of shovel work, because a lot of times the arch in your foot can take a beating after the repeated pounding on that top of the shovel. This boot makes that a cinch to deal with. Another feature that I want to talk about is the lace locks. On many boots, the lace lock is a weak point, and frequently you have to retie your boots 10,000 times over the course of the day. This has not been something that I found that I really had to suffer through very much. And another piece of that is also with the laces. So the laces stay put, and in combination with the lace locks, it makes for a really, really good experience. Another huge safety feature on these boots is also going to be the sole and midsole. And so on the many times that I have actually stepped on sharp objects, I'm typically gonna get fair notice that something is penetrating through the sole and midsole of the boot, okay? So when that does happen, you have the safety feature of knowing that you're gonna feel some pressure as it's going through the sole of the boot as well as the midsole. When you step on something sharp, one of the very common scenarios when that happens is that you're going to not have any type of notice. So when you step on something, immediately after you figure out that you've stepped on it, it's already in your foot, okay? It's like instantaneous. This is going to give you some pushback and resistance, and so you're going to know, hey, there may be something up under my boot. I may need to not put my full weight of my body on there. So that is a huge plus with regards to these boots. Another characteristic about this boot that I really like is that the overall style of it has not changed much over time. So in my original video, I'd owned the boots for 6 years, and you can see in that video, sitting with the old pair and the new pair, the boots look virtually the same. And even today, when I go out and buy my next pair, they still make them and they still look the same. So that's reassuring in a time where things are always changing and companies are always trying to improve or over-improve on something that works. So that's another huge feature. You can go out and buy a pair today, and if you have to buy another pair down the line, you can rest assured that that boot is going to look very similar and perform very similar to the way that it performed before when you bought your previous pair. Okay, so let's talk about some of the shortcomings that I notated in the first video, which were the sole, the midsole, and the overall comfort of the boot out of the box, okay? And so, number one, I'm 2.5 years into wearing these boots, and the soles have not started to separate. Now, I cannot remember far back enough to remember when the soles started to separate or when I first started to note issues with the soles, but it's probably too early to be able to make a definitive judgment on that. The midsole falls into the same category, but I can say that 2.5 years in, the boot is still performing very well. The third item, however, which is the overall comfort level, I can 100% tell you is greatly improved. So in the first pair, I ended up having to put in a pair of inserts immediately after purchasing the boots. This pair, I expected to do the same thing. As a matter of fact, when I changed over from the old boots to the new ones, the first thing that I did was remove the old inserts out of the old boots and put them to the side to make sure that I had them ready for the second pair. However, when I took the boots out of the box, I decided to give it a try just to see how uncomfortable the boots would be and to see if I could stand to wear them without inserts. And believe it or not, 2.5 years later, I'm still wearing the boots without inserts. So that is a drastic improvement over the first ones. And that was probably my biggest gripe with these boots overall, was the general comfort level straight out of the box. Before we go any further, I want to give my perspective on work boots. As a contractor, I have a relatively utilitarian approach to the way that I view work boots. Not all shoes, but work boots in particular, I just want them to perform the way that I need them to perform. I want them to be safe, comfortable, and looking good is a plus. So this boot checks all three of those boxes, and that's why I wear them. However, I am not trying to develop a love affair with these boots. So when they wear out or tear up or get too dogged out to wear anymore, I will just slide another pair in there, just like I would with a worn out tool or some other type of supply. That's my view on it. It's not my view on all shoes, but it is my view on work shoes. So that actually brings me to my next point, which is frequently when I was reading through reviews that people were giving on these boots, the more critical reviews frequently referenced the Red Wing line of boots. And to me, this is not a complete apples to apples comparison. And one of the main differences between these two types of boots is just the overall price point. So the Timberland Pit Boss is a boot that can be purchased for somewhere around $80 to $90 a pair, which is a very good value for a boot that is this durable and comfortable and looks this good. However, the Red Wing boot, based on my quick research, starts somewhere around $240 to $250 a pair, okay? So that means you can buy 3 pairs of Timberland Pit Bosses for 1 pair of Red Wing boots. So can we really compare these things? You be the judge of that. I would much rather spend $80 to $90 3 times on 3 different pairs of boots rather than have 1 pair that's probably not gonna last as long as those 3 pairs of boots combined. Additionally, once you've worn a boot to a certain point, sometimes you just wanna freshen up and get something new. Even if it's the exact same thing, sometimes you just want a fresh start. And so that's an opportunity for that. That's just my 2 cents on it. Let's move on, we're getting close. Okay, let's talk about a few tips. There's a couple of things that I'm doing this time around with the second pair that I did not do such a good job with the first time. And one of those things is I'm doing a much better job at keeping the boots clean. The first time around when they got all mucked up and dirty, I never really bothered to clean them off or try to wipe them down and get them clean, mainly because I knew they're just gonna get dirty again. But so this time around, I'm doing a much better job of trying to make sure that if they get all dirty, wipe them down, hose them off. And I've also gotten some leather conditioner to treat the boots periodically because they are a skin and a hide, and so they will dry out over time, particularly when they're exposed to water, even though they are waterproof. And so I found that this has helped prolong the way that the boot looks and probably the way that it functions as well. And so this is also increasing the level of flexibility and malleability of the leather, which helps to keep it from cracking over time. This is also probably helpful for the sole and midsole. I'm sure that having the sole and midsoles caked down with mud and all types of other nastiness is not helping the situation at all. And so overall, I believe I'm doing a much better job just with general maintenance. Another change that I made is with regards to what I do with the boots after they get completely soiled while I'm out in the field. And so the old me used to just toss them in the back of the pickup truck and take them out when I got ready. I don't do that anymore. And the reason is very simple. If you're a pickup truck owner, you probably already know what I'm about to say. The worst thing about owning a pickup truck that does not have a camper on the back of it is you leave things in the back of that truck and they end up getting ruined by the elements, okay? And so boots are no different. And I'm sure that allowing the boots to remain in the back of the truck and get wet and exposed to the elements was not helpful. And so I don't do that anymore. I immediately take my boots out of my vehicle immediately when I'm done. And another safety feature that I've actually put in place is I typically bag them up when they get really soiled. That way, if I slip up and forget to remove them out of the bed of the truck, I don't have to worry about them being completely exposed to the elements because they've got a layer of protection with the plastic. So another change that I've made to the way that I maintain and care for my boots is that I no longer voluntarily expose them to extreme temperatures. And the main thing that I'm getting at, or the main thing that I've changed, is that I no longer store them in my vehicle. So previously, I would keep my boots in between the seats in my vehicle and I would put them on when I needed to, take them off and put them back there. However, I am in the Southeast where it gets very hot during the summertime, and the inside of my vehicle, if it's sitting in the sun, can easily reach 130, 140 degrees on the inside. With my boots in there, this cannot be good for the glue that's holding my sole and midsole and the overall boot together in general. So I don't do that anymore. Okay, so we're basically at the location that I wanted to share with you all. I've got one health and safety tip, and then I'm gonna pan around and show you what it looks like up here. Okay, so my health and safety tip / advice deals with puncture wounds to the feet, particularly when you're wearing shoes. So even if you're up to date on all of your shots, you want to make sure that you seek medical attention if you experience a puncture wound. And the reason is simple, and this is something that I did not know, but I was told by a physician, and I wanted to share it with you guys, and that is this. The interior of your shoe has some very nasty germs in it. And so when you step on a sharp object that penetrates through the shoe, it actually is being exposed to those germs, and then it could potentially take those germs and introduce them into your body when it punctures through your foot and into your system. So the main thing that you're going to be concerned with if you're up to date on all your shots is actually a bacterial infection, and you're going to make sure that you get some antibiotics as well as whatever else they may prescribe for you while you're there. So this is not necessarily common knowledge, but it's something that you want to keep in mind if you have puncture wounds. I'm not a doctor and I do not play one online, but feel free to look up all this information on your own and ask your own personal physician next time that you're in there. But just be sure that you do not neglect your feet just because you know that you have had a recent shot. So we're here. I'm going to scale the last little bit of this hill here, and then I'm going to show you guys this view. Look at all these boulders. Really cool, right? Really big tree that's come out of the ground over there. Hopefully you all have enjoyed this Timberland Pit Boss review video as much as I've enjoyed making it. There's only one thing left for me to do with regard to my review, and that is tell you all how these boots make me feel when I have them on. Hopefully you found this video informative. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys on the next one. You won't believe it, guys. Take a look at the tree that I just found.